Hello! How is everyone doing? I'm great. I'm living my life. Welcome back to Musical Theater Mondays. We're gonna chat about the musical Parade. If you want to learn more about the true story behind the musical Parade and what is the plot of Parade, that is in the video that I did last week. So if you want to check that out first before doing this, go for it. I love it. I love you. You're fabulous. It was very fun revisiting this show. I didn't really know much about the origin of it, and I actually have never read the libretto for it until this week. So I am very excited to share with you the background and origins and the plot stuff and all the fun things. So let's just dive into it because it's juicy. So, Hal Prince, well-renowned producer and director in the Broadway world, he was approached by Alfred Uhry, who is best known for his work on Driving Miss Daisy, won a Pulitzer Prize for it. Uhry approached Prince with the story about Mary Fagan and Leo Frank, and he actually has a personal connection to it. His grandmother was a friend of Lucille Frank's, and his great uncle owned the pencil factory that Leo and Mary worked at. After hearing the story, Hal said, "Hell yes, we're gonna name it Parade. I give it a go. Let's just get into it." Stephen Sondheim was originally gonna do the score, which, can you imagine? I bet he would have made a killer patter song with Jim Conley's multiple statements, but he decided to back out. He just finished writing Passion, and that's another deep, dark musical that we can cover at a different time. But basically he wanted to do something different for his next project. So instead they hired Jason Robert Brown, which is kind of fitting because he's mostly inspired by Stephen Sondheim. Andre Bishop and Bernard Gersten, I don't know if I said that right, of the Vivian Beaumont and Lincoln Center, signed on to produce, as well as Garth Drabinsky, head of Livent at the time. I don't know if that company is still a thing. I tried looking it up and I think the company that it led me to is not the correct company. So while Jason and Alfred were working on the book and score, Hal did his own research about the time period as well as visiting Atlanta. The first piece that Jason actually wrote was The Old Red Hills of Home, the opening number, and the title actually pays homage to a part of the inscription on Mary Fagan's gravesite. When he first played it for Alfred was actually in tears from it, and that was Jason knowing that he was on the right track. The song itself basically shows the contrasting aspects of Georgia at the time of 1913, what has and hasn't changed since the Civil War, and the state itself is a character in the plot. And what's also interesting is that it doesn't introduce the two main characters in the show, Leo and Lucille Frank. They decided to also heat up the relationship between Lucille and Leo. There really wasn't that much to go off of in terms of historical accuracy of their relationship. Lucille was a very private person, but I do believe that they had access to the letters that were being sent to each other while Frank was in prison. They used the idea that they fall in love with one another throughout the trial. Pat Birch was hired as choreographer. She's mainly known for doing the choreography for the Grease movies. How Pat works is that she doesn't focus on counts. She focuses more on the character's attributes to influence the movement throughout the piece. All right, now we're gonna dive into a he said, she said moment. And I just find these moments fascinating because everyone's point of view in a certain part of history is always going to be different. This is a great example. So according to Hal Prince, he wanted Brent Carver and Carolee Carmello early on to play the roles of Lucille and Leo Frank. According to Carolee, she auditioned for the reading in '95, and she believed that she got through Jason because they collaborated with one another on the musical John and Jen. Jason didn't write the music for that, but I believe that he wrote the arrangements for it. There was a reading in Philly in '96, which I believe is the one that Carolee was part of, and they also did workshop performances with invited audiences in Toronto, Canada in '97. Carolee, in an interview, says that she almost lost the part. According to her, Hal called her one day to say that they were actually planning to look for someone else to play the part because they wanted someone that looked more like Lucille. They auditioned for people, they couldn't find anyone they liked, so Hal asked her to do the next reading, which happened to have Matthew Broderick play Leo, despite not going forward with the project. The audacity! And Carolee said yes, and she ended up staying with the project. Fascinating. Brent Carver joined the project in '97. This is actually when Jason figured out how to write for the character of Leo Frank based on what Brent, the actor, needed to move the story forward. Oh, also fun fact, Christy Carlson Romano made her Broadway debut in this playing Mary Fagan, and she's actually the reason why I saw my first Broadway musical back in 2004, I think? And this was before she was Disney-fied. So according to Hal, the entire process was a labor of love. Tech went really smoothly. He even makes the remark in his book that he felt like that he made the Arthur Miller musical. And then during previews, his friend Carol O'Connor said something to him that made him realize, oh, I think we're screwed. You are a brave man. This is a lot for you to ask an audience to take in. So if that wasn't a warning sign, I don't know what is. They ended up getting okay reviews. Some of them were good, some of them not so much. The show ended up running for 2 months. This actually led to a bit of drama when it came to recording the cast album. After the reviews came out, Livent, that company that I mentioned earlier that I had no idea if I found the right company while doing my research or not, they dropped out, and they actually had a agreement with the recording company RCA Victor to record the cast recording. And so due to Livent dropping out, they were planning to drop out as well. Jason went to them and asked if they would distribute it, if they would pay for it. And they said yes. The team worked really hard to get the money together, and they ended up getting the recording done. They also won 2 Tony Awards for Best Book of a Musical and Best Original Score. And it actually has quite a rich afterlife with many colleges and regional theaters doing productions of it. There was a national tour done in 2000, and in 2007, the first London production was done, directed by Rob Ashford, and it was done at the Donmar Playhouse. Jason actually wrote new material for it, and they also reduced the orchestra to a 9-piece ensemble. There was also a smaller cast. First Night Records produced a recording of it, and it also includes dialogue from the show. I found this recording absolutely fascinating. It still had the rich fullness that was in the original cast recording, but having the dialogue in it was also a nice little perk. There were 2 productions done in Los Angeles, including a transfer from the Donmar Warehouse production in 2009, and then of course the Avery Fisher Hall concert in 2015 with Laura Bedanti and Jeremy Jordan. I wish I saw that. So the show itself, I'm just gonna be upfront, I love it. But after looking into the history of the story itself, there's definitely some show discrepancies. The first thing that just immediately pricked my ears, and of course this is me being so picky in the minute details, but in the very beginning of the show, Leo says Lucille's uncle offered him the job at the factory when it was actually his uncle. They definitely heighten moments from the true story to make them more dramatic. The best example for me is Leo shows that he doesn't have any marks on his skin. In the show, it portrays that he did it the day after the murder, when it was actually a few days after, and it was done by request of his lawyer. Which, speaking of his lawyer, in the show, it shows him being represented by Luther Rosser. The character is a little bit questionable to me, but I don't know much about the original person that I can't make my own 2 cents about it. But in the show, it shows that only Luther was his lawyer. He actually had 8 for the trial. Britt Craig, who is one of the main reporters of this case, he was actually at the police headquarters on the night when the call came in, but in the show it shows that he's being kicked out of a bar. That was actually really interesting. For a moment I thought that Britt Craig was a fictional character to encompass the media side of the show as a whole, but he was actually a real person. Really cool to find that out. Is that a skateboard? What does that sound? Another thing that I found interesting about the plot, and again, I wish I had better resources when it came to the true story itself, but there's a moment between Governor Slayton and District Attorney Dorsey about the murder, and they said that they need to find the culprit of this fast because they didn't want the town to get angry at them for having child labor laws in place, i.e. if Mary didn't have to work, this never would have happened in the first place. And it shows that Governor Slayton is putting the pressure on Dorsey to choose one of the 2 people that were in captivity at the time, which was Newt Lee and Leo Frank. Another thing, again, man, I wish I had a book about this. They show that Lucille is very distant to Leo during the trial, but according to what I found, Lucille was by his side the entire time. At the end of the trial, the way that they formed it, Leo was put on the stand unexpectedly based on his lawyer's strategy, which leads to the song It's Hard to Speak My Heart, which oh. And It's Hard to Speak My Heart is so beautiful to listen to, but when you read the directions, is that he's singing this to Lucille, and oh my god! He sings it to Lucille, and at the very end, she knows my husband is innocent, and what he's going through is BS. I love the directions of that. One of my favorite moments is the opening of Act 2, which is a song called A Rumblin' and a Rollin', and it focuses on Newt Lee, Jim Conley, and 2 other black citizens, and basically they're commenting on the fact that a white man is being held on trial and people in the North are angry and coming down to try to help in any way they can, but they make the comment in the song that if a little black girl was murdered, no one would come. No one would be paying attention to this. Overall, the show itself, with the music, is very lavish and lush, but the story itself, it's very dark. It's a lot to take in. As you saw in my last video, you know the story of it, so of course it's dark matter to even make into a musical itself, but that's what's really cool about Hal Prince. He really liked making musicals out of material that you wouldn't expect to be material for a musical, and it was directed by him. It was written by a Pulitzer Prize winning writer and a newcomer on the scene that has been given the opportunity of a lifetime. So the question is, why did it fail? One of my favorite quotes about this is actually something that Hal Prince's daughter, Daisy, said about it. She said, "You walk into a theater and there's a huge tree, and you're going to see a musical about a man who was unjustly hanged. So for the balance of the evening, you look at that tree knowing he'll be hanging from it." So yeah, I know I already said this, but I love this show. This is a dream show of mine to be in. I just think it's so well done. The story between Lucille and Frank is absolutely done beautifully in this show. Another favorite moment in it is that they do not kiss and they do not say the words "I love you" to one another until the very end of Act 2, right before he gets kidnapped. I just think it's so well done. I mean, hello, Alfred wrote the book. Duh. Jason's music is also very informative and it helps move the plot forward. Now I definitely feel like I'm going on a tangent. Thank you so much for joining us. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like. Please subscribe. I post videos every Monday on anything and everything musical theater. I have stuff lined up for February and I'm very excited since it's Black History Month and we're going to be focusing on Black artists in the musical theater realm. It's going to be very fun. I think you'll like it. May you be happy. May you be healthy, may you be safe and at ease and free from harm, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.